If you are a hardcore mountain biker, this is a little warning for you. I'm about to break a mountain biking taboo with a new addition to Project Comp V2, but it's here for a reason. But first, I need to make sure everyone knows where we're at. This is the Schwinn Aluminum Comp. This is a Walmart bike, so if you're a new viewer here and you don't know, I take Walmart bikes, I modify a lot of them, and I ride some of them regularly on the mountain bike trail like this. This is what I call Project Comp V2. Done a lot to this bike. Basically, about the only thing that's left of the factory bike is the frame. Maybe, nope, not even one of the stem spacers, just the frame. So that's Project Comp V2 based off of the Schwinn Aluminum Comp. I'll put a link down in the description to both this bike on the Walmart website so you can see it in its factory form, and also a link to my Project Comp V2 video so you can catch up there. So what have I done to this that's going to make the bike bros, the hardcore mountain bikers, freak out? Well, I added something right back here. If you don't know, that is not a dropper post, that is a suspension seat post. That's right, on a mountain bike. You don't see this often, and I'm laughing here because it just is so bizarre to me, because these suspension seat posts, they've been around for a while. The only place I'd seen them previously was on cruiser bikes and people that wanted more comfort than anything. So why did I put this on my go-to mountain bike for this year so far? A suspension seat post. Well, that's because this started, I think, with the Electric XP. The Electric XP, one of the options is a suspension seat post. So a lot of people buy that, and if you follow the Electric XP, which by the way I have a link down in the description, an affiliate link for Electric now that you can click on if you're looking at one of their bikes. Maybe support the channel by clicking on that link. The electric bikes, they came out with the Electric XP 2.0 and it had a front suspension. People were buying that seat post along with the front suspension, and I saw this term start coming out. They were calling it a dual suspension bike, and that has apparently bled over into mountain biking now, because I'm receiving fairly regular comments from people saying, hey, if I buy one of these and put it on a hardtail bike, does that make it a full suspension mountain bike? And that's what this video is about. I want to address, well, a couple things. Number one, does this even work on a mountain bike trail? I've just ridden up, I'm at the halfway point, Salvation Bench. Does this work on a mountain bike? Is there any benefit to this on a mountain bike? And also, does that make this bike a full suspension? Let's tackle this being dual suspension on a mountain bike, making it full suspension. Well, technically, I mean, if you have suspension anywhere on a bike, so you have the front, that's one. If you have some other source of suspension, that would be two, so two is dual. So technically, yeah, I guess you could call it that, but in reality, it's not. There's a big difference between a suspension seat post and a full suspension mountain bike. And I'll see if I can edit in a picture here of a full suspension mountain bike. And there's more to it than just placement, because a suspension seat post is designed for one thing: to take strain off of the rider. Because on a hardtail or any bike, any rattles from the back go straight up that seat tube, straight into the seat post, up through the saddle, and straight into the rider's back. That's what this is designed to help with, because these aren't a lot of travel. That is 40 millimeters on this particular Zoom seat post. I'll put a link to it down in the description. This is the 27.2 diameter, designed so that less vibration comes up through the seat and into you, the rider, as you're holding on to the handlebars. That is a suspension seat post job, and its only job. How that differs from a full suspension bike: if this bike had a shock right here, and it had full suspension pivots, like all back here, like the Mongoose Salvo Pro that I showed in my previous video, that is not designed so much for rider comfort. Its main design is to have some flex and some swivel back here on the back, and very loose use of some terms here. But the main goal is keeping the rear wheel on the ground over rough terrain as much as possible. It's all about wheel contact on a mountain bike. That is not what a suspension seat post does in any way. This rear tire on this hardtail, this Schwinn Aluminum Comp hardtail, it's not going to have any more ground contact with the suspension seat post than it would without it, because it's going to bounce. If this were full suspension, again, it could pivot up when it came over rough terrain, a rock, a root, whatever, and flex a bit just like that front fork. Can flex in 100 millimeters before it actually starts bouncing. And that is why I made this video, because I've seen so many people recently start calling this dual suspension, and it's really not, even though technically you could make the argument, but a suspension seat post on a mountain bike does not make it a full suspension or dual suspension bike. Again, I'll put a link down in the description to this seat post. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed here, well, I'm sure you did, that I got the anodized red. You can buy these in black or silver. So it would have black, then the silver suspension part. And the head here, it could be either black, silver, there's some gold ones, or this red. And I bought this red because, you know, got a lot of anodized red stuff. Here on Project Comp V2, unfortunately, and this doesn't show up on camera, but that's not the normal anodized red. It's kind of almost a purpley red. If I didn't know it was there, I wouldn't pay attention to it, but I see it every time because I compare. It's the first thing I did. Put it beside my other anodized parts, which all match up pretty well. And that is a little off, but still not too bad, I think. I don't know, comment below with what you think on that and what you think about suspension seat posts, because I'm breaking this taboo here, putting it on a mountain bike. But I will have to say, it actually does make this smoother. There are some benefits, because it does smooth out rolling over bumps. I mean, if you're riding a big box bike, odds are, if you envision mountain biking, you're standing on the pedals, both pumping uphill and riding downhill. But the reality is a lot of us ride seated. At my morning ride, I make about a 3-mile loop when I come out just to wake up, and for starters, I'm waking up. So a lot of my riding is seated, even over areas that I probably should take some pressure off my back and stand on the pedals. This comes in handy for that. I'm not gonna lie, it actually does, embarrassingly so. And that's the good. There is a trade-off on the negative side though. That has to do with the pedals and the legs and the knees. There's this thing called leg extension. Leg extension, there's a specific angle, I forget the actual degree, but there's an angle that you're supposed to have at your knees. You don't want too little or too much, because that can put too much load or overextend the leg and create knee issues. You see people pedaling and their knees are coming up to their elbows as they pedal. That's not a good thing when it comes to cycling, especially with mountain biking or road biking. Anyone putting a lot of stress on their legs, the problem with a suspension seat post and that is that 40 millimeters changes basically the height of your saddle over the roughest of terrain where you're putting the most stress on your knees. That is not good. So I'll let you make the determination if it's a benefit or if it's not. There's the taboo. Did I break it by putting a suspension seat post on a mountain bike? Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen this on any mountain bike trail I've ever ridden. If I ever came across someone with a suspension seat post on a mountain bike, be it big box, modified, whatever, I just haven't seen it. So I'm sure the hardcore mountain bikers would probably turn their nose up at this, but honestly, I don't care what people think. I care about having fun on a bike. Doesn't bother me. As a matter of fact, someone commented the other day that if they saw anyone with colored pedals or bright colors on their bike, that's a bike noob. Well, that's interesting, because I have a Trek mountain bike coming up that's a very bright color with some very bright accents. So I don't know about that, but you can't please everyone. Still though, a suspension seat post on a mountain bike, yeah, that's probably breaking some taboo. Some mountain bike god is getting a little upset. But really, who cares? If you enjoy it, but just be careful if you decide to do this, because yes, it does smooth it out on the back, but potentially at the expense of knees. So there you go. Not dual suspension, just a seat post. A suspension seat post on a mountain bike, in this case, on the Schwinn aluminum comp. One thing though is for sure, I'm gonna have a smoother ride back down the trail today. I'll be able to stay seated because of the little suspension seat post and have a nice, smooth, easy ride back. If there were ever one case where I kind of wish I had Zoom brakes to match the Zoom seat post, I guess this might be it, but not really. I like my Shimano brakes. But comment below with what you think about suspension seat posts. Do they have their place? Well, I know they do. E-bikes, they are great for. especially like the electric XP, but what do you think? How would you react? Someone with some nice components on a mountain bike, and then you see that. A suspension seat post. So comment below, let me know. Thank you so much for watching KevCentral. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it informative, and if you're new here, I hope you subscribe and check out my other videos, like how this went from stock Schwinn comp to Project Comp V2. Thanks for watching KevCentral. Have a great day. Bonus footage, if you spotted the mud on my pants and wondered where that came from, that's because when I was setting up for this shot, I decided I could start mid-hill on a route in a high gear and just power my way up. Unfortunately, that shadow, that's someone about to go over the bars. The only bonus, it was in super slow motion, so I was able to tuck and roll, and hence the dirt. Just thought I would share.